Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Talking Rangers podcast. I'm your host, Blair, alongside Joe. Joe, how's it going, man?
It's going good, a lot of good hockey, so it's been a fun start to the season. So
Yeah, looking forward to getting into it today. It is Wednesday, November 8th. We're going to be recapping week 4 of the Rangers season. Crazy, it's already week 4. It has been flying by. We'll also get you set up a little bit later on for week 5 of the New York Rangers 2023-2024 campaign. What are your overall thoughts on the season so far? It's been great. We were talking a lot about it before we went on today, just about how good they've been, how even they could even be 11-1 with the 2 of the 3 games they played that they lost. They didn't even play that bad other than that Predators game. This has been awesome to watch. Last night was a lot of fun. They took down Carolina, even with some of the injuries they're dealing with. Laviette's impact continues to be felt. What are your thoughts as a whole before we break down each of these past couple games on this Ranger squad so far this season?
yeah, it's pretty much. Obviously, you got the injuries to Fox and Hedel. Hopefully, we'll be back relatively soon. But besides that, it's like a perfect start. I couldn't imagine them starting this hot. I didn't think right now we'd be, even though it's only beginning of November, I didn't think they were going to be in first. So they just keep winning games and playing. Like, there hasn't been a game, I think, other than the Predators game where you thought, A, they're playing bad, and B, halfway through the game, beginning of the game, or any part of the game, you're like, they're probably going to lose this game. I feel like every other game, you had a feeling throughout the whole game, okay, they can win this game. They're playing good hockey. And I think it's just a big props to the coaching staff. I think really getting the most out of these players, especially Artemi Panarin.
Yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned, outside of that Predators game where they lost 4-1, every game they've been in, as you said, that Columbus game, you look back on it, they had the 2 goals called back for offsides. That doesn't happen. You maybe get the win there. And then the same thing with the Minnesota game. They started out extremely hot, 3-0 to start the game. They ended up obviously blowing the lead, but even that was a game that they had in their hands that they just let it slip away. Part of it was Minnesota played, really well after, the goalie change, and they made some adjustments. But 9-2-1. They are on an 8-game point streak. They haven't come out of a game without a point since October 19th, and we're sitting here on November 8th, which I think just shows you their dominance and how good they've been. So we'll start with the Hurricanes game, as they got the job done 2-1 in this one. This was a big game after their long road trip where they went 5-0. Was an historic road trip for the Rangers. This was a big game. Coming back home, easily a game that I think potentially they could have laid flat and struggled, but come back home, they get the job done. What were your thoughts overall in this game before we get into some of the goal scores and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was a good, I feel like, a defensive game. I feel like both
Yeah.
teams kind of limiting chances. I thought early on, I think the Rangers had the upper hand in the neutral zone and had more offensive pressure. And I think in the second period, kind of switched the other way. I thought Igor was really good in the game, made some very key saves. And again, the power play has just been the story of the season. They keep clicking. And just I think they're getting contributions. I know a lot of the guys aren't getting points. A lot of guys, besides like Panarin and like Kreider and the guys in the power play, aren't putting up great numbers. But guys, I feel like are having like quietly good seasons. Like I think Trocheck 5-5 has been good. I think Coley's been good. Wheeler, I feel like, has been improving. I'll give him that. I think the defense in that game I thought was very good. I thought Truba's been unbelievable, I think, this season. I think he just flies under the radar because everybody's focused on that $8 million contract and him maybe not producing the points that we thought he was going to be. But as a leader and as a captain and just defensive game in general, I thought he played really well in that game. And I thought it was a tough battle for the Rangers, especially coming off that long road trip. And like you kind of said, like, maybe it was going to be like a dud or like a little bit of a game where you wouldn't see them come out as fast and lose that game after that long road trip and the success they had on it. But I feel like they came in, played a good defensive hockey game, and got the win.
Yeah, I totally agree. And they could have, again, easily fallen flat, especially after Adam Fox go down and then Filipino as well goes down. 2 big pieces that were missing. You went into that third period and you were thinking, okay, just find a way to come away with the victory. The Rangers were able to do that. You mentioned how good Igor was, 26 of 27 at a 963 save percentage. He came out of the game a little banged up. Obviously didn't start the Minnesota game, didn't start again last night, but we're hearing today at practice that he looked pretty good. And Lavalette said that as long as tomorrow goes well and he feels good, he should be back out there um, here tomorrow against the Wild back at home. So you look at some of the goal scorers in this game. Cooley had the game winner in the third, and then Kreider also had the power play from Panarin as his, Panarin every game. It's just if you're a betting man, bet Panarin a point every single game because he might as well just get a point in every game this year. That's the rate we're going here. But I wanted to get to Cooley because you mentioned a little about him. I've been impressed with Cooley this season. Young piece of this team. Obviously, good winger for that third line. What have been your overall thoughts on Cooley? He had another goal last night, 2 goals in his last 3 games. I feel like he's been, getting better each game. And I think that is also a reflection too on the coaching staff, helping a young player like him continue to see development. I think from opening night to where we are now, we've seen continued development with Cooley on that third line. Would you agree? And what are some of your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think the NHL level is definitely a big step to take from the AHL because I know he was pretty good down there. I think he made the All-Star team down there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a slow start. I think just in general, him adapting to the NHL game is something that he had to learn at the beginning of the season. But I think game by game, you can really see his confidence going up. Like he's skating with the puck more. I really am impressed. I think he's a very strong skater, kind of like what Kakko is or was, where like he's very good on the boards with the puck. He's strong. He's aggressive. Throws his body around. So he seems like a guy that could develop into like a good player to have on your top line where they're going to be physical but also bring some skill. And I think he's not that fast or not that slow either. I think he's got some speed to him, but an aggressive player, always trying to get in front of the net. I'm really impressed by him, and I think it's perfect. Just let him up, sit on that third line. Don't try to rush him to come up onto the top 6 if someone's not playing well. Like I was okay with them the other night moving up Wheeler instead of like Coley because I think that they just need like Coley sit back. Don't put a lot of pressure on him. And I just think that game by game is just really improving.
Yeah, you mentioned his ability to bring that physicality. I've been impressed with his forechecking as well. I think he's done a really good job with that. And also, again, bring a little bit of an offensive punch. 4 points so far this season, 3 goals. Again, 2 of those have come in this game. And again, last night, he was able to find the back of the net. And yeah, I think, I don't know if this was just me. Do you think, like, just going back to like a hypothetical world here, like, you think if Gallant was here, he'd move Coley up to, a top line instead of like Wheeler? Because I just feel like, again, Lavalette just is a lot better at developing these young guys. And I think he's handling Cooley a lot better than maybe what Gallant would have done. You think that is kind of a reflection too on the coaching a little bit?
I think it would have been the opposite of Gallant. I think Wheeler would have started the season on the first line. I think Lafreniere wouldn't have been with Panarin. I think he would have put all his bets up. You would have seen like Gaudreau or VC on the first line with Gallant. Gallant had to play the vets, did not like a lot of the young kids he had problems with. He had short leashes on all of them. Like if they had a bad game, they'd be benched or they'd be on the fourth line. I like how Lavalette lets these kids make mistakes, but at the same time, it keeps them in check. Like if they're going to play bad, you'll miss a shift or two. If you're playing good, you're going to play. So I think he has a lot more leniency with them, like with a guy like Coley, with Lafreniere, Hedel, and Kakko. Seems like Gallant would give up on them, it seems like. And also he would play his guys. Like last year, he would kind of like force like guys like Gaudreau, BC. I don't know if you remember like Chris Carpenter, not an NHL player. He'd force him to play on like the third or fourth line. And I hated that. And I love Lavalette has been, again, short in the season, but I feel like coaching, the way he's playing players, lines, and everything, he's been unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. Chris Carpenter was the flash from the past there. But yeah, so a couple unfortunate things did kind of take place in this game with some of the injuries. I thought the refs, and again, it's a really good win, and obviously you're happy about it and stuff like that. But I thought the refs missed some pretty clear calls in this game. What were your thoughts on the refs? I thought, even the Fox hit was probably not the cleanest thing in the world either. But what were your thoughts on the refs? I mean, even there was another play. I forget it specifically who it was, but I think was it Trocheck that took a stick to the face. It was right in front of the refs, and he didn't see it. I think
4 or 5 clear high sticks in there. Yeah, Trocheck was like bleeding.
Yeah, he was bleeding, and it happened right in front of the ref.
They missed so many calls, and I'm gonna admit it though. I feel like there were some calls, obviously, the other way that they missed.
Oh yeah, definitely, they were bad all around.
Bad. Overall bad. The whole game, both sides, it was bad. I mean, like the Foxing was kind of like bang bang. Personally, I think it should have been a penalty because Fox was trying to cut into the middle and get into the high slot, and Aho like kept skating and kind of just ran into him. That was a missed call, but unfortunate what happened.
Yeah, you're just hoping Fox again. It's the 10 games or 24 days with
Seems like it's
Fox.
not going to be that long, from what I've
No, it
heard.
doesn't.
So.
And if it was something that was like super severe, where let's say he would miss the season, the Rangers would be able to make a move with the
They
no
also probably
tackles and
would
stuff.
have came out and said that
Oh yeah,
publicly, because if he was going to miss the season, I don't think they would have had to hide anything, because the NHL is really like weird about like injuries where they don't really tell
yeah,
you. I actually think Fox should be back in a week or two, around when he hits the minimum games he has to miss,
yeah.
or the days he has to
Days,
miss.
yeah.
My more concern coming out of this game was Heedle's injury, because
Heedle, yeah.
apparently the rumor is it's a concussion, and I think this would be like his third or fourth concussion, which is very concerning. So Heedle, I'm more concerned about Heedle as far as injury wise compared to Fox. I think the Heedle injuries have been really concerning over the last couple of years. He's such a dynamic player, but it seems like he just gets these injuries. You think that he could potentially miss months, or you think maybe it's not as bad as people think and he can come back maybe in a week or two? Because he's only on the IR, not the LTIR.
Yeah, I mean, again, the history with Heedle is certainly concerning, but I think he'll be back relatively shortly. I mean, as long as the concussion, it's not anything major and he's fine soon, I think he'll be back. I think them placing him just normal IR tells you a lot about how they feel. And obviously giving Fox the long-term IR. I'm not overly concerned about Heedle.
Yeah.
I'm really not concerned about both of them, to be honest. I mean, I think the history with Heedle is a little bit more concerning, but hopefully it can just be a 1 to 2 week thing where, he's already missed 2 games. We're already going
I believe he has to miss 3 games, I think, if he's
yeah,
on
with
the
a
IR.
concussion.
Just the
Yeah.
IR in general.
Yeah, just the IR.
Because I think they
Yeah.
actually, the thing with Fox is, I think the reasoning why he was on the LTIR is because I think they needed cap space, because once they realized that Heedle was also hurt, they didn't have enough cap to
Yeah.
call up anybody. So I think putting him on the LTIR relieves that 9.5, so they can like call up whoever, like Berdinsky. I think they called up like McKay or something, and even they called up the Ming. But I think relatively, I think they were not lucky, because he obviously missing time, but I think
Yeah.
it could have been more severe. So it's good to see that hopefully these guys can be back by, at the very least, December. So
Yeah, and you'd rather these injuries happen now
yeah,
than
definitely.
right before the postseason, where you might miss them for some postseason games, which again, early in the season, these games are important, but you'd rather it happen on the 10th game of the season than as opposed to the 79th game right before the postseason, where you're going to miss time, and that's
Yeah.
going to obviously be a lot more crucial. So hopefully those guys are back. They went 1 for 5 on the power play. Hurricanes are 1 for 2 on the power play, so Rangers kind of 50% there on the penalty kill. Overall defensive game, Rangers come away with the victory. Igor was great. Came out of this one a little banged up, but again, he should start tomorrow. I was a little concerned when he went down. I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like there's always those times with Igor where,
He's a faker, dude. He
yeah, so
flops.
I was
Like,
just about to
I
say it.
mean, yeah.
Sometimes it's like, I think was it last year or the 2 years ago in the playoffs, I
Oh, there
believe.
was 2 years ago in the playoff. He flopped
He,
twice in the Lightning series, where like
yeah,
Perry barely hit him. I was
yeah,
at the game where against the Penguins, where Carter didn't really try to get out of the way, but barely touched him. And I think Carter hit his leg, and then Igor grabbed his head,
yeah,
which
yeah,
made no sense.
yeah. The only real injury with Igor was
Here's
2 years
groin, I
ago was
think.
that the groin that
And
he
then I
had.
think he got into a car accident with Bushnevich a couple years ago too, and he missed some
Yeah,
time.
that was it
But
though.
that's like a
I feel
freak
like
thing,
he
yeah.
he block or he's fake. He
He's a
flops more than he
faker,
actually
yeah.
gets hurt.
It's kind of
But it
funny, but
is,
yeah.
yeah. It is always concerning though when
It's
you see him
scary
like
though,
get
because you
hurt
think he's
because
hurt, but then you're like,
yeah,
it's Igor. He's
you're like,
probably
gosh,
faking.
if they have to place him on IR or long-term IR, it's like, Quick's been playing so good, but anytime your starting goaltender looks hurt or looks in pain, it's always a little concerning. But
Yeah.
I think we at least gotta we're kind of a little bit more prone to it now because we've seen Igor do that a lot where he flops a little bit. Sometimes I think he might be looking for a call, but either
Yeah.
way. Moving on here to the Wild game, which I guess we could break this up into, this game was really the tale of just really 2 games, because you start in the first period where the New York Rangers were dominant. They scored 3 goals in the first 6 minutes and 53 seconds. They're all coming on 5-on-5. So the Rangers were dominant. They were getting pressure. VZ, Panarin, Gustafson, all getting goals. Minnesota pulls their goalie, and 4 shots, 3 goals. They pull their goalie. Fleury comes in, only faces 14 shots the rest of the game. The New York Rangers ultimately get outshot 39-18. We'll start with the beginning. What were your thoughts early on? I mean, the forecheck, the pressure. I mean, they were phenomenal early on, 5-on-5, scoring 3 goals. Once Minnesota benched their goalie, I'm like, this might be a 5-6 goal game. We're going to dominate. But what were your thoughts on the start before we get into what ultimately was an unfortunate collapse?
Yeah, I mean the Wild looked bad. Like I thought they were terrible. Like defensively, they were just getting beaten every puck. They weren't getting into lanes. Like the Gustafson goal, he just walked right in. Like
Yeah,
nobody in
yeah,
the Wild even
exactly.
stepped like wide open and just ripped it over the shoulder of Gustafson. The Panarin goal, no one was pressuring him. I mean, it went off like a stick and went in, but they just let
Yeah.
Panarin walk in. Um, the VC goal, I feel like that was more of just like an unlucky bounce for them. I think it just happened to go to VC's stick right in front of the net, or I think maybe hit his leg or something. But no, they were terrible. But like the Rangers were just swarming, and it seemed like the Wild came out with no effort. I thought it was going to be a blowout.
Yeah. I thought this, especially anytime a team pulls their goaltender, it's not like they're waving the white flag, but it's almost a sign of like panic. Like we're down 3-0. He's only faced 4 shots. It can't get much worse. But unfortunately, it was the opposite for the Rangers. Wild come out in the second period, score 2 goals. Rangers were quiet. You go into the third period. I feel like it was an automatic that Zuccarello is going to score in this game. He ends up scoring to start the scoring in the third period, only a minute in, or a minute 40 in, and then another goal, and then Kreider ended up scoring late. What did you see from this Ranger team just late that caused them to ultimately blow this game? They still walk away with this game with a point, which is fine. You take it. You're not going to win every game. But what did you see from this Ranger team that ultimately led to the 3-goal blown lead?
I think they just kind of not booked it, but to some degree they took their foot off
Yeah.
the gas,
Yes. Yep.
kind of didn't put as much pressure on, and I think the Wild were kind of playing with like desperation, and because I think they really needed to win that game. I think they were on like a 4 or 5 game losing streak too, so I think the fans were restless. They were booing, and I
Yeah.
feel like that was the game for the Wild that they had to come back and at
Come
least
back
put a
up.
fight in. And I think the Rangers were thinking, all right, we're up 3-0, we can sit back way too early in the game to do that. I feel like in the first period. So they were getting kind of pressured all through the second period and at the beginning of the third. That game honestly could have flipped the other way. I felt like Quick made some pretty good saves.
Yeah.
I thought that they had to get the next goal. If they were to go down by 2 goals, I think that would have been the game in the third period. But no, yeah, the Wild, credit to them, they came out really hard, and I think that playing with desperation in hockey is the best thing you can play with. So I think, unfortunately, obviously you blow a 3-0 lead, but I think at the other side you can look at it when you don't have your good game and you're getting dominated to some degree, you still come out with a point. I think that at the end of the day is pretty important for the team.
Yeah, totally. You're gonna have those games over the course of 82 where you're gonna have nights where you're gonna blow leads. It's gonna happen. I think if there's fans out there, not fans, but I'm sure there's people out there that are like, oh, Jonathan Quick wasn't good. Like he faced 39 shots. They were putting a ton of pressure. I thought Quick was fine. Ton of pressure. I mean, 35 to 39. The Rangers again, they took their foot off the gas. They stopped. Wild were putting a ton of 5-on-5 pressure. Every goal in this game came on 5-on-5. The Wild had 4 power plays, they didn't score. Rangers had 1 power play, they didn't score. Every goal in this game came on 5-on-5. So it was a pretty evenly matched contest in terms of that. But just after that hot start, I thought they were gonna blow them out of the water, and unfortunately, didn't happen. But again, you walk away with the point. For a fan, I never like shootouts just from a nerve standpoint. They're never fun that way, but you wish they could have came on the top, but you still come away with the point. So then you head back home, finally a 3-game homestand for the Rangers. And they open up last night against the Red Wings with a 5-3 victory. This extends their point streak, as we mentioned earlier, to 8 games. We'll start with this before we get into the game itself. They changed up the lines. I know we mentioned a little bit earlier about Wheeler, but what were your thoughts on them moving Kakko down, putting Wheeler up to that first round with Kreider and Mika?
Be honest with you, I'm not like too thrilled. I mean, again, I don't think Kaku's had a good start to the season. Whether it's him or just because I feel like that line has been, let's be honest, not good 5-on-5. I mean, maybe they have maybe they have 1 or 2 5-on-5 goals. I can't really recall because Kreider, I mean, has like 9 goals on the power
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
I think he scored a shorthanded goal too. So I mean, if you look at Kako with he's got 2 even strength points. I think he's right up there. I think they're all those 3 guys. I think have relatively the same amount of even strength points. So I mean, again, I guess you give a little leniency to the veterans. So obviously you're not going to put down Zibanejad, but I mean, Kako, I guess, was the guy that he maybe Lavalette wants to put like a fire under him to get him playing a little bit
Yeah.
more, to demote him, which I'm fine with that because he did give him a big leash. Like, I'll give him that. He gave him like 11 games to start getting going, and he hasn't really done much. So maybe on the third line, maybe he can be more comfortable, maybe start playing better because I think that line is probably playing better 5-on-5, even with Bonino with them. I think they're still playing a little bit better than that first line. But I thought it was fine. I mean, I think that Wheeler is not really going to do much on that line.
No.
But as long as they're winning games and the guys are playing well, I didn't have a big problem with it. What did you think about it? Did you think maybe that they should have gone in another direction as far as maybe jumbling up the second line or just keeping that because they're playing so well, or kind of moving like Panarin onto another line to get someone else going? Or did you think that what he did was pretty good for the team?
Yeah, I'm okay with what he did. The second line, to me, I don't think you want to break up. I mean, that's been probably your best line with Trocheck, who had 2 goals last night, and Panarin had another goal, and Panarin's been one of the best players in the National Hockey League this season. I think with Kakko, again, he's I just don't know how much longer we're gonna. I don't know. I mean, Kakko's just it's weird. Like
Seems like he's invisible. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
he's not.
he
Yeah.
has chances. He's had what? I think we were talking about this. Was it last episode? Um, he's had like 2 or 3 opportunities where he's had an open net and he's missed.
Yeah.
So like he's been there. He's had some opportunities, but it's not enough. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're having chances. It doesn't matter if you're putting pressure. You got to ultimately put the puck in the back of the net if you want to stay up on the first line. But I mean, look, you're putting a veteran up there in Wheeler. Maybe it gets him going a little bit. I wasn't against it. Again, I don't want to shake up that second line. And as much as Laviolette can say it wasn't a demotion, I think it is maybe a little bit, as you mentioned, a little bit of a wake-up call to Kakko. Like, we do want to develop you. We want you to get better, but you also got to perform. You can't just stay on this path of not getting any better.
Yeah.
I just need to see Kakko, like, he's getting chances, but he's not capitalizing all
He
the
needs
time.
to finish. Yeah.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, that's all that matters, in my opinion. I've been very impressed with Bonino. We talked about him last week. God, that guy is
definitely
just a monster when it comes to blocking shots, and his
great on
faceoffs. He's been great
faceoffs.
on faceoffs. He's done everything we've asked him to do.
He's a great
And,
fourth line, like great fourth line player. I think he's better than Gaudreau.
Yeah, he's been better than I agree.
I'm gonna say it like right now, just because he's better at faceoffs, and I think just as a fourth line player, I mean, Gaudreau is obviously overpaid, but I think Bonino has been that was a great addition by Drury.
Oh yeah, it was phenomenal. And
unbelievable.
another one of those kind of like very rare, very minimal cap space, but found a way to get him in. And
Same as Gustafsson too. Gustafsson's been great too.
Gustafsson is very good. I was very looking forward a lot to what we were gonna get out of Gustafsson early in the season. Like earlier when we were doing our preview pod, because knows the system, Lavalette, Capitals, all that stuff, and good puck moving defenseman, which is what this team needs. And I think he's been everything we could have asked for. 8 points so far this season. So he's been really good. But what were your thoughts on like some of the other? Obviously, we mentioned some of the line changes, but Trocheck in this game was great. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, Trocheck's a good player. I feel like again, he's such an underrated player. He's definitely a second line player, but I think he's really good on the third line. To have a guy like that, because he's fast, he's aggressive, he's got some good skill to him. He's got a really good shot too. I feel like every other game he like rings one off the post. I feel like a lot of times he gets unlucky. My only concerns with Trocheck is again great on faceoffs too. I think he's the best on the team.
Yeah,
but I feel like I don't know if you notice this. You ever notice like sometimes he tries to like dangle through guys or trying to make too many plays through the middle of the ice? I feel like he gets a little caught away with that or carried away with that. But he's a really good second line, third line player. Really good faceoffs, aggressive guy, and again a really nice signing from Drury. I think he's going to be a really good piece for this team.
Yeah, I love what I've seen from Trocheck this season. You think he's better than where he was last year?
I do, because I think last year he again it's an adjustment period, new
Yeah.
team, new cities living in, has to learn all of his teammates. Um, Again, I think that him being here for that whole year, getting to know everything, and this year kind of being more comfortable, I think, and also kind of not having a lot of pressure on that third line, just
Yeah.
letting him kind of control. Like that's his line, I think. When Hito comes back, I think he'll probably get moved back. Who knows? Maybe they'll put Hito back, but if they do, like,
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing where he knows, like, this is my line. Wheeler and Cully have to play with me, and he kind of gets more confidence with the puck, making plays. Again, we talked about like his face-off ability. I think he's off to a sneaky good start this season, and you could see him, especially playing on the power play, having some good
Yeah.
numbers this year. So I've
Yeah,
been really
definitely. He's
impressed.
been what were you saying?
I just said I've been really impressed by Trocheck. I think he's been really good.
Yeah, totally. Definitely agree with that one. We've talked a lot about the power play, like Rangers fans as a whole. We've talked a lot about the power play, and they went 2 for 3 last night. But I think the penalty kill has been very good as well. Like I think that's something that that it deserves special teams as a whole. But the power play has been so good. Penalty kill maybe it's flown on a radar a little bit. But the Red Wings
Did
last night
they?
had 6 power
Yeah,
plays
they went over 6,
and they
right?
went 0 for 6,
Yeah.
and that's just a huge credit to this Ranger penalty kill. They have an 86% penalty kill percentage. I was looking earlier today, and that ranks 9th in the National Hockey League. So that's certainly something too. Again, the special teams just 2 for 3 on the power play last night. Um, Kreider again doing it again on the power play. I mean, that's
It's ridiculous. He's
expected.
gonna score. He's gonna score like 25, 26 power play goals this
Yeah,
year, maybe even
it's
more.
crazy. It's
He's
wild. And
unstoppable.
then yeah, and then Trocheck as well, the power play goal. But I mean, when you tilt the game like that, where you're 2 for 3 on the power play and you hold the opponent to over 6, you're winning that game 9 times out of 10. I was a little worried in that third period when they scored those 3 goals, but fortunately, Quick made some quick, no pun intended, but he made some big saves late. Um, what have been your thoughts on Quick this season? Like the way the preseason went, we went into the season. It was just weird in general. Jonathan Quick wearing a Ranger uniform, it just didn't seem like it was going to work just from the first place, just because the whole obviously history with the Kings and stuff. But he's been impressive. I mean, he's been really, really good. I could tell you there's a lot of teams out there right now that would take this production from Quick as their starter. I mean, cough, the Oilers. I'm sure they would take it right now.
The
But
Devils.
I mean, the Devils, exactly. There is a lot of teams right now that would take Quick, and the fact that he's sitting behind Igor just it makes you even more confident as a Ranger fan. And in a case like yesterday or two games ago, rather, where Igor got banged up a little bit, I fully trust Quick to come in, play 2, 3 solid game. And again, that Wild game wasn't his fault,
Yeah, no,
but he
I
was really
agree,
good. Yeah,
100%. Like
definitely.
before the season, our concern was, again, obviously, you don't need the best
No.
goaltending to back up, but can he, again, like we were just saying, can he play the 2 to 3 games
Hmm.
if Igor were to miss some time? And he stepped in. He's been really good. Positioning has been great. Hasn't given up any goals where you're like, probably should have gotten that one. A
Yeah.
lot of like point blank shots. I think a couple of them were like cross ice backdoor goals or
Yeah.
deflections or screens in front. There hasn't been a shot where it's like he knows he's got positioning on the guy and the guy just beats him and you're like, he should have saved that. I mean, he's made some very key saves in these games. I feel like against the Wild, that game could easily went the other way as far as not even getting it to overtime. And I think he made a lot of key saves. Last night, I feel like at the end of the game, I'm not gonna say it was locked up. I mean, you are up 5-0, but he did make
Yeah.
some big saves. He made some big
Yeah.
saves, especially on the penalty kill. I feel like that 5-on-3 made some decent saves.
Yeah. That last big forecheck for the Red Wings, they had that one play, or that one shot where it went off his block or it went off his left leg, and then he had one go off his glove, and that was like, I'm not saying they would have lost, but it would have been 5-4 if he lets that up. I think it was like a minute. Was it like a minute 10,
It was
maybe
like I
minute
think
20,
under
or
under two
was it under a
minutes.
minute?
It was under 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah, under 2 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was like it
they had
just
to really pull.
6-on-5. They would have pulled their goal. I mean, maybe we score an empty netter and win it, but it's certainly still a big saves. Stepping up late in that game. I mean, he's been great. I've been really impressed with Jonathan Quick this year, and it's the complete opposite of last year. Because last year the backup goaltending early was brutal, and it got better. This year it's been hot from the start, so that's certainly a good thing. Overall, I think we walk away from this episode. There's not a whole lot to complain about. The Rangers are 9-2-1. They're leading the Metropolitan Division, 19 points next closest to the Hurricanes with 16, 8-5-0. Rangers, couple more home games coming up before they hit the road again for 4 games. Couple questions here, and we'll preview. Do you see this Ranger team? I know it's way early, but do you see this Ranger team taking home the Metropolitan?
I actually do. I think we do. Unless there's like obviously, hopefully not more injuries.
Yeah.
I think you can afford to Panarin to go through a little bit of a slump because I think him slumping or him he's on fire right now, like arguably the best player in the league. I think it's kind of good because Zibanejad hasn't been bad, but like he hasn't been very like hot as far as goals going in. I think he only has got the 2 from that one game. I think you'll see like they still have another level. Like I think if Zibanejad gets going and they start producing 5-on-5, this Ranger team is deadly. And I think the Hurricanes, confusing to me how they're not playing great. I mean, obviously, hopefully, I think Anderson has some like blood clotting problem. Hopefully he gets better. You don't want to see that, but goaltending in Carolina hasn't been great. The defense hasn't been good either, which is weird because that's like their strength. A little suspect of the Hurricanes. And then the Devils, like, I honestly think if Jack Hughes were to miss like a month, I could see them dropping out of the playoffs for that extent because they're so reliant on him and their power play because they can't be giving up 4 or 5 goals a game and expect to putting up those goal numbers every game, just how bad their defense and how bad their goaltending is. So you have the Rangers clicking on almost everything: defense, power play, goaltending. So you can see them getting out to a little bit of a lead here. So I don't see anybody else challenging them at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's been good, consistent. Again, we talked about it to start. Like every game you've felt outside of the Predators game, they've had a chance to win. And that's what's been really good. They haven't had any of those. They haven't had really that stretch of like 3-4 games or that stretch of over a week where they played really bad. While other teams are, and you hope that can continue. And I think it's a good sign too to see while injuries aren't good. No, by no means am I saying that. I think it is a good sign to see, okay, even though Igor's down, Quick has stepped up. And even with Fox and Hedel out, other guys have stepped up and they've been able to play well. And that shows that, the depth is stepping up. We're able to win even without those guys. Again, at the end of the day, you're going to need those guys in the postseason. But even with some injuries, even with some adversity hitting with the injuries, it's still good to see. I was talking to somebody earlier. This is just quickly Devils. Like, do you feel the Devils need to, what do you feel is a bigger issue with the Devils? Their defense or goalie?
Goaltending, 100%.
Goaltending?
Yeah, because I think that at least with defense, you can kind of counter that by changing your the way you play defense in the neutral zone. So you kind of just by the system, if you make adjustments, you can limit chances. But I mean, at the end of the day, if your goaltender isn't making saves and letting up bad goals, I think that's more of a problem. I think a good goaltender can cover up for bad defense, but a bad goaltender cannot, or a good defense, I don't think can cover up that much for a bad goaltender. So I think the goalie is the most important player on the team.
Yeah, I would tend to agree there too. It's been interesting to see. Like, they seem to be, again, Hughes is out, but without him, they're not the same. They've definitely not been the team that many expected, and I'm definitely happy to see that. So to close things out here, I got one more question. Just another hockey question. Would you rather be Oilers fan or a San Jose Sharks fan? Because the Sharks did pick up their first win. Maybe that's the start of a long winning streak like the Rangers. Who would you rather be right now? Because that's been a topic I've seen on like Twitter and stuff. It's kind of like divided, I feel like. I mean, go
ahead. You can finish your
I would say the Oilers.
I'd agree. I'd say I'd rather be the Oilers just because of the fact you have McDavid and you're hoping that because he hasn't been playing well. I mean, for his standards, he's like a point a game. Like a point a game is bad for McDavid.
Yeah, you wonder if the injuries he's still like.
Yeah, maybe he came back a little early. But
yeah, it's like the season is.
That's another team though that the goaltending is horrendously bad.
It's horrendous.
Yeah. And the thing is about the Sharks, you expect them to be bad. The Oilers were not expected to be at the bottom of the Pacific with the Sharks. So
yeah, it's true. The Sharks are another team with bad goal. They got bad everybody, and nothing's good.
They'll be bad for a while, especially that like I feel like they kind of. I'm not saying I don't really know much about the prospects coming this year in the draft. I know they got this one guy like Celebrini or whatever, or Iserman, a couple of Canadians, in American, but if there was like a generational talent, I feel like as a Sharks fan, you could be hopeful for that. Like, okay, we're gonna be bad, but we can get like Bedard. But at
Yeah.
least with the Oilers, you have McDavid. So
Yeah. And they got McDavid, they got Draisaitl. You feel like if they can just get the defense and goalie strained up, which I know is a lot.
and they've been trying for years,
Yeah,
though.
they've been
So
trying for years. Then I don't know. I'd rather sit there and watch McDavid every night than. But yeah, I feel like McDavid might have rushed back early because he does not look the same. And I took him first in fantasy, and he's not been like he's been not even near the
you think
top
he
of my
leaves?
fantasy
You
team.
think you think he leaves at Edmonton?
It's been interesting because I
No,
feel
I'm
like
not saying like at the end of his career. I'm saying like when he's still like relatively in his prime. You think there's a chance he could request to
yeah,
get out?
I'm surprised he hasn't left already. To be
I mean, he
honest, because
signed that massive
it
contract though.
feels yeah he did. You know what it feels a lot like? It feels like Trout with the Angels. Like
He's
he's
just gonna
just
sit
getting his
there.
career wasted.
Him and Otani, and then it's like Draisaitl and McDavid.
Yeah, exactly. And
Kind
it's
of is
like
like that.
like they're wasting their careers in
I mean, at least they make
Edmonton.
the playoffs though. Like
Yeah,
like they
that
went
is
to the
true.
conference final. Trout
Yeah,
and Otani are never gonna
they can't
play a
even.
playoff game together. I guarantee
Yeah,
you.
yeah. But anyway, any closing thoughts as we close things out here? A little bit of a longer episode. Lot of good things to talk about. The Rangers, interesting schedule. The way things play out for the Rangers here. They will play the Wild tomorrow night, and then they'll play the Blue Jackets on Sunday. So they'll get Friday and Saturday off, and then they play again next Saturday. So they'll have 6 days off from Columbus to that Devils game. So a little bit of a rest period there for the Rangers after their 2 more home games coming up on this 3-game homestand. Any closing thoughts?
Like usually same as always. They got to stay healthy and keep playing competitive hockey at the bare minimum. Just make sure that you're improving every day. As far as as the young kids, you just want to keep. Hopefully, Kako can start playing well. Lafreniere,
Yeah.
I feel like if he can get more points, because I think he deserves it the way he's playing. Hopefully, you see more on the stat sheets from those guys.
Yeah.
Stay healthy, like I said. Just keep getting points, like grinding out these games early in the season, getting points, getting to a lead. Obviously, you don't want to ever take your foot off the gas, but it's nice to see early in the season the Rangers in first place and looking like they should be a playoff team this year. So
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of positives, a lot of good things, and you hope they continue again tomorrow night as they continue this little bit of a homestand here, which a lot of road games because then they head on the road for 4, but I'm just happy because that means late in the season we'll have a whole lot of home games and I'm all right with that. So that'll do it for episode number 6 of the Talking Rangers podcast. That is Joe. I am Blair. Subscribe and like the video. We appreciate all the support. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.